we do have what we might call a legislator in waiting, possibly. Bob Tatterson is joining us. And to introduce Bob.
Hi everyone, my name is McKinley. I am Bob Tatterson's campaign manager. I work for the Assembly Democratic Campaign Committee. And there is an election 9 days away, 15 miles north of here. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this is the last election in Wisconsin for the year. For Assembly District 24, which covers half of Mequon, Grafton, Germantown, and about a third of Menominee Falls. And I'm going to introduce Bob here in a minute, but it's an incredibly important election because it'll allow us to, increase our veto protection margin in the state assembly. I'm sure all of you right now have been watching the news and, seeing how Governor Evers recently did 51 line item vetoes towards this disastrous budget that Robin Voss just really wants to get through. I don't know, he really wants to take care of those starving millionaires and billionaires in our state. And, they're going to attempt in a couple weeks all of these veto override attempts to try to get these starving millionaires and billionaires massive tax breaks. And, this is our chance to increase that veto protection margin and also be another voice in Madison for all the values we care about, in all of our progressive circles. So I'm going to introduce our candidate, Bob Tatterson, the next legislator for Assembly District 24.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Bob Tatterson. I'm running for the special election. So as you know, there was a special election in April. Unfortunately, Dan Knodel failed forward into the Senate. And that created an opening for me to run in a special election in July 18th, coming up here for AD 24. So we're at this celebration. Happy birthday, America, 247 years old. We have got so much to be grateful for, so much to be delighted about in our history. All the accomplishments that we as individuals, as organizations, and as our government have achieved over those last 247 years. But you know what? While we can learn from history, it is just history. What's important is to look forward and think about the decisions and the actions that we take as individuals, organizations, and as governments going forward. And that's why this election, which is your next election in Wisconsin, which is just 9 days from now, is so important. It's an opportunity to flip a district and put someone with values that we share in this group here and that, frankly, we share across the state into Madison to represent our interests. Thank you. So, briefly, who am I and why am I running? So, I live in Mequon. I've been married to my lovely wife for 33 years. I've got 2 boys that have been through public school. I grew up on a farm in rural Ohio. I grew up next to a giant cornfield that I was afraid to venture into. I was a 4-H kid. I kind of grew up in the firehouse. My father was a volunteer firefighter for 35 years, and as soon as I had the opportunity, I joined the fire department myself. So I had an opportunity at a young age as a young adult to start serving my community, and I really enjoyed that, and it gives me a tremendous appreciation for first responders, especially fire and EMS services. So that service extended onto my career. I decided to become an engineer. I went through public schools and got a degree in engineering. Just frankly, I wanted an opportunity to develop, better products and help people and make the world a little bit of a better place, and I think I did that. So that led to a career as both an engineer, then eventually a leader within several different corporations, leading research and development and new product development. So I know about solving big, ambiguous problems. I know about bringing diverse stakeholders together to figure out strategy and to come down and plan tactics that make sense and how to get things done efficiently. So I'm really just a common sense problem solver. I intend to go to Madison and work and not go and play games. I've never been in office before. I'm a practical person. I applaud Governor Evers for his compromise over the last months. As we need to move things forward for the state of Wisconsin and not just play political games. So that's really how I'm wired. So when you talk about what's at stake, McKinley mentioned the veto. We worked so hard to get Judge Janet elected. We worked so hard to get Tony Evers reelected. But frankly, that's all for naught if his veto is overridden. And here's the story. I mean, we lost seats last November in the state assembly. We don't like to talk about that, but we lost seats. We now only have a 2-seat margin against, protecting us against the supermajority in the state assembly. So now here's a real story. 2 weeks ago, I called an assembly member, a state assembly member, and we're talking, and I'm like, well, why aren't you in Madison right now? They're voting right now in Madison. And they said, well, I'm homesick with COVID. So there's the scenario. We have one person homesick, and another person that, try as they might, they need to get up and go to the bathroom. All right? You know they're counting noses constantly. Once we're 2 people out of the room, Robin Voss is going to pull out those overrides. Right? So we could strike down the 1849 abortion law like we hope will happen. But you know what? They can pass an equally bad law. Governor Evers can veto it, and then that scenario will play out. So at a minimum, I will provide a 50% increase in that buffer, right? We're going to go from 2 people to 3 people. And I told Greta, I will show up early and I will stay late for every session. I will be there to vote to support Governor Evers. Thank you. So that's a very important practical reason that I need to win. Obviously, on all these other issues that we care about, gun safety, women's right to reproductive choice, strong public schools, those are the platforms that I stand strongly behind, and I will work on those as well as things that interest me as an engineer, things around clean energy and things around the environment. So I really would look forward to being one of the very few engineers ever to have served in our state assembly versus a lot of the barkeeps that tend to hold those positions, especially up in Ozaki County. So briefly, my opponent. My opponent isn't very well distinguished. He's not even well known in his own hometown. He's currently a town and county supervisor, but his name ID is very low. He doesn't make a lot of waves, but frankly, he's on the record for a lot of very reprehensible positions on issues that we care about. I mean, frankly, the guy is, and he's a guy, he's a white guy, big white guy like me. Unlike me, though, he is very anti-woman. And here's just 2 tidbits. He offered up, he wasn't even asked, he offered up in an interview that he was against no-fault divorce. Now, you can imagine situations where women, and probably sometimes men, are in relationships that are very abusive, and to not have the ability to do a no-fault divorce, divorce would trap women in those marriages. But that, of course, is just a small thing. He's 100%, pro-life, but we know what that means. So, he's not aligned with where most Wisconsinites are on critical issues like that, like gun safety, et cetera, et cetera. So, his name's Paul. His last name is pronounced Melitik. Some people pronounce it Magatik. I think it's Melitik. He's not our guy. He's not going to be supporting our values. So, how can you help? How can you help? Many of you are helping already. I see so many faces here, people I've met in the past. As many of you know, I ran last fall. I appreciated the support then. I appreciate the support now. So many of you are making phone calls, knocking on doors, making donations. Guess what? With 9 days to go, we just need to keep doing more of that. We have all the votes that we need. I received over 12,000 votes last fall. This is a very low turnout election. We anticipate a very low turnout. Frankly, if half the people vote for me in this election that voted last fall, we should win. We should win and be able to flip this seat and represent our values in Madison. So it's all about voter outreach to likely progressives, likely Dems, and that's exactly what we're doing through our mailing, through our digital media, through our phone calling, through our door knocking. But we need to do more. My personal goal is that we have a live conversation, eye to eye or on the phone, with every likely progressive and Democratic voter in the district, so that we can just make it crystal clear how important this is and how important their vote is. And if they vote, if they actually go and vote, we will win, because we will. So, how can you help? Continue doing what you're doing. If you'd like to do more, we need you to do more. So McKinley will be over there at the table. We need folks to make those phone calls to, again, likely Democratic voters, making sure they actually vote. We need door knockers. We need to make those personal contacts. I just did 60 doors in Grafton this morning, okay? Oh yeah, I was at your door. Yeah, I have evidence back there. So, we need to do more of that. And, you know, frankly, 30% of the people were home, and I had great conversations, and every one of them said, yes, I will vote for you. Early voting's already started. Tell them, vote tomorrow at City Hall, Village Hall, all across the district. So we need door knockers, we need phone callers, and finally, if you can do that, or if you can't do that, we still need money. And that's, what do we need money for is, we want to keep ramping up our digital marketing campaign. We want to keep ramping up our positive messages, and frankly, we're running some negative messages that call Paul out for what he is, being, you know, an anti-woman, freedom of choice candidate. We want to keep dialing that in. We're going to spend every dollar we raise, so any incremental funds we can bring in, even in this last week, we're going to deploy on our digital campaign. So we can do this. We've got the votes. We can do this with your help. Thank you, and I'll see you in 9 days.